Okay, here it is colored in. So at that point, you're at this point now where you have all of your lines all drawn out, all of your details. If you needed to erase anything or refine anything, you can totally do that. Just be aware that your outlines are the only thing that's going to be in that, those black lines are going to be the only thing in that layer. You have an overlay, which is a white overlay on top of your photo, so you can adjust this, but if you wanted to see your progress, this is how you do this. I also note that I also outlined parts of the background as well for my design. So at this point, I'm going to show you how you're going to add your colors like this. So you just delete this and delete this. Okay, so this is what you have to start. You're going to make 2 more layers, again, like before. One of these layers is going to be color. The other one of the layers is going to be called background. You can also call it background color if you want, but I'll just call it background. So at this point, all of the color that you add to your face and all your positive space, my shirt, my arm here, all of the positive space, I'm going to be applying to color. The background, it's where I'm going to be applying all of the background color. So to start, you could use, if you want, you can use colors that already exist, in which case I'm going to need them. So if I wanted to paint this the real color of my face, I'm going to use the color picker, and you can click on one of those tones and use the brush and brush that color on. But be aware, make sure you're putting it on the color layer. Alright, sorry, move my opacity all the way up. And so when you apply it, you can see that it's going right on top of my face, but it's going underneath my lines. Okay? So you just want to be aware of where you're applying the color. Okay? And you just kind of keep going. If you wanted to use color that was not realistic, you know, let's say for my sample I was using a color like a blue, you can certainly do that. And again, the same process, you're applying color on the areas that you want the color. And again, if you mess up like before, if you do mess up, you can use the eraser tool and you can remove the color just like you did when you were adding your lines. Okay. You can change the size of the brush and the size of the eraser. Now, I'm going to hit those larger areas a little faster, but when you get to those smaller spaces, you go with a smaller brush. And all of these colors are going to be applied to the layer marked color. So I tend to do like the outline, kind of like, I don't know, when I color with on a coloring book, I usually do the outside edges, and then I can kind of go a little rougher, maybe a bigger brush around the other spaces. And again, if I erase, I can hit the E for eraser, and I can erase the areas. Okay. So brush, B for brush, E for eraser. Alright. So you can jump over to different colors for different spaces. Maybe I want the lips to be a darker version of that blue that I'm using. Okay. So you're just going to fill in all the spaces with different colors. Okay. And you can jump around, but basically everything, for my design, everything to the right is going to be filled with color. Okay, and that's just my my face. Okay, my face and my hair. The background's going to be applied as a different layer. So if I go to the background and I want to start coloring in my background colors, fill them in over here. Okay, so I will keep working and I will start the recording after I'm done with this part. Okay, so here I have the picture where I colored in all of my positive space, and if I needed to refine anything, I certainly can go ahead and do that. So if I need to fix up any areas, I can do that. If I forgot to do this arm, the arm. And again, all of these colors are applied to that that new layer called color. When I'm ready to go into the background, I am going to use the background layer. That's where I'm going to be applying colors to the background. All right, so I'm going to continue coloring in colors for the background, just the same way. Just making sure that I am on my background layer. And I can extend farther out for my background like this because it's being covered by the color layer. So I'm not going to be that concerned with, you know, coloring on top of those spaces. I'm just going to be concerned about the background. And if I want to use different colors in certain areas, I can certainly do that. Just by filling them in over here. Okay, so keep coloring in the background, and we'll again meet up when we're done. All right, it's at this point that you have your outlines. So let's review. You have your outlines drawn, and behind the outlines you have your color applied, right? And then there's also the background added. Background color. So if I take away this, you can see that some of the background color is spilled underneath, but it's being covered by those colors. So there you go. That's the finished product so far. Now the last step of this whole process is we're going to explore how we can add some visual effects to keep this from looking too flat. So you can add some smudges and some highlights and lowlights and variations of color. Just like you would if you were doing this with watercolor. Instead of marker, now you're going to add some like colored pencil or some watercolor on top of it to create some shading, some highlights and some shadows.